Welcome. Welcome, everybody. Starting this live stream up again for the third session, working on this Bernie Sanders caricature full body sculpt. Yeah, well, thanks for joining, everybody. I'm just going to get started right in on this, just picking up where I left off last time. Got kind of a rough block in for the lower half of the body, kind of got the jacket halfway done. Got the head mostly done. I think I'm going to do some asymmetry once I have fused all of his anatomy primitives together. So thanks for joining. Sit back, relax, ask some questions in the chat, and we'll get going on this. Hey, Andrew Sobetkin, 13. Good to see you here in the chat. Where are you from? Have you joined this one before? So anyway, I'm going for kind of this classic Bernie Sanders kind of arms up in the air pose. And then for the face, I want to do this one. So, oops. So if this gives you any idea what I'm going for. And I'm really enjoying these process that I use to make the face particularly. Just slapping together different primitives and just kind of tweaking those primitives to fit the anatomy. I think it's worked really well. Um, yeah, and it'll be fun. I'll just fuse all of this together and then like smooth out the differences or the connections, the seams, and the hair was a lot of fun to make too. Definitely some more tweaking to do on that as well. But yeah, we're just going to get down to it. So if you have any questions about how I do anything, feel free to put that in the chat. Hey, arthritic one. Yeah, good guess. It is Bernie Sanders. Um, yeah, I started this about 4 weeks ago. This is my third session making this piece, and so I had a contest on the first day that I was working on it to see who could guess. As I was building out the caricature of the face. So the winner won a free copy of my plugin Ryan's Tools. $20 value, the pro version. But unfortunately, I can only run the competition once because now the cat's out of the bag. Hey, Arky, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Really like making these big shoulder pads that he's got here. And as a caricature, I'm like enjoying finding ways to like really exaggerate some of these proportions. Oh crap, that edge loop didn't go where I wanted it to. Hey, what's up, Scott? We got like syrup, good friend of mine, Scott Denton in the chat. That with that creasing, it doesn't like to behave in that crease like that. I might just sculpt that later because it's really like, yeah, that's not working for me. I'm just gonna undo all that shoulder pad creasing thing I was trying to do. I think I'll just sculpt it in as a detail later. I wish edge creasing had like a fall off so that you could like have an edge be like partially creased. I wonder what's up with my weld. When I do my mirror weld, it's creating this like ridiculous stuff in the middle. I don't like it. And then I do redo the weld and it looks fine. And then the next time I do weld, it does something weird again. All right, let's put some lapels on his jacket. How about that? I know there's things like stock suit models and stuff like that, but I rarely use them. I like to make pretty much everything from scratch every time. Hands, ears, shoes, clothing. Like, I actually really don't like starting from stock models unless I have to, of course. There's a really good reason, like some studio needs, they have a pre-made stock model and it's got the rig already applied to it and they like how the UVs are laid out, et cetera, et cetera. Like, of course, you got to do that. But for my own work, especially, I like to do everything from scratch. Like to have that sense of satisfaction of like, yeah, I made everything from scratch this time. Scott, you back in New York City yet? Hey, Salim Sadman 20. Yeah, hopefully you can guess this is Bernie Sanders that I'm working on today. Oh, that's weird. Somehow I've got this messed up here. His hips. I don't even know how that happened. I don't think I selected it at any point. Make his feet and legs a little bit bigger, maybe. I don't know. I'll play with the proportions. Yeah, I think a little bit bigger is better. Okay, now that I have his jacket sort of more well established, I'm going to keep working on his pants, I think. I try to get that pleated pants look, but keeping it very cartoony at the same time. And actually, I don't know what Bernie Sanders looks like with or I don't know what his shoes typically are. Does he wear sneakers or loafers? That's a nice caricature. I like that. All right, I'm just gonna go with something simple like that. Hey, Tally Lou. Not sure what you mean. I'm like, what? Oh, thank you, Tally Lou. Kind of you to say that. I've made enough shoes in my lifetime and made them from scratch every time. Well, not every time, but whenever I could. I'm gonna go really simple on these shoes because it's just a cartoony caricature, right? Oh, that's cool, Sally Lou. What what kind of work do you do in the industry? Oh, that's cool. Character design. Do you do it at a specific studio? Atlas Creative. I haven't heard of them. Where are you located? Okay. Where in Iowa? I actually grew up in Iowa. I grew up in Clear Lake and in Forest City, Ankeny. I'm trying to remember where Ankeny is. It sounds really familiar. Where I grew up is north central Iowa, near Clear Lake. Polk County. That sounds really. I think I lived near there. Let me see. I'm gonna look at my maps right now. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right just north of Des Moines. That's why I recognize Ankeny. Yep. Yep, I lived about an hour and a half north of you. Clear Lake. That's where I grew up. Is Atlas Creative a video game studio? Nice. What kind of video games have you worked on? Fortnite, a lot of Roblox games too. Nice. Kids are really into the Roblox and the Fortnite, I can tell you that. I don't have any kids myself, but I am an uncle. So that makes me an expert on all things kids, right? Thanks, Tally Lou. A trip to Turkey for a hair transplant. I didn't know they. Is Turkey well known for doing hair transplants? Tally Lou asks, is it bad to auto group the hair? I do auto group the hair, so I can make it more easy to control each clump individually. Um, I suppose if there, there's definitely some workflows where I would want to keep the tip of the hair and the root of the hair as separate polygroups to make it easier to control for like selecting the tips or the roots. But for this particular piece, I'm not worrying about that. And so, yeah, just auto grouping makes it easy. But then, yeah, it's kind of like six of one, half to. Actually, you know what? There's been some new features that will auto group but retain the polygrouping per shell, I think. But I haven't been messing with that new feature, so I'm not exactly sure how it works or if it would be a good idea. But yeah, there's always some new little feature in ZBrush that like helps automate things like that. There might be a way around that. I should probably look into that actually. If anybody knows what I'm talking about, feel free to chime in. Then there's always the move topological brush. It just can be a little bit finicky sometimes because you think you're grabbing one clump and it actually grabs a different one. It's kind of hard to grab the one I want. It keeps reaching through and grabbing a different one. Yeah, Tally Lou asked a question about mascot-oriented faces. So by mascot, I assume you mean like a cartoony character, which in that case, like I always like to build those faces out of primitives. So this face of Bernie, it's I've sort of done a hybrid approach where I'm not retaining perfect primitives. I am like massaging the shapes of these individual pieces quite a bit. But with a lot of cartoony characters, you can make do with mostly just primitives, just spheres, cubes, cones, etc., cylinders right out of the box without hardly any massaging. It just depends on how cartoony it is. The more cartoony, the more perfect primitives you can use, or actually it's fewer number, but they stay more perfect. And then the more like closer to realistic or detailed you get, the more you might want to massage those primitives into like not perfect primitive shapes like this. But yeah, you slap them together and you move them around and you find what works. Spitfires, I'm doing great, thanks. I have done some animation actually. I'm not an I'm more of a character modeler, but I have done some animation. It's really cool. I love doing animation as well. I'm actually working on some animation for a short film project. I'm making my own short film about AI, and it's set in the near future where um, nobody can tell if the art you made is made by yourself or with AI. And so there's a robot that follows you around and makes sure that you're making your art without AI. It's very dystopian. And so I'm animating. I modeled and I'm right now I'm rigging and animating this robot that follows you around, and I'm going to composite it with live action footage. And so I'm hoping to have that film done in a few months. So yeah, Tally Lou, I do a Boolean merge with all of these primitives here, and then I smooth out the connections between the primitives. But I actually really like how it looks with these overlapping primitives. It would be really cool to see an animation where it retains this like really sharp border between these primitives. I think it's a really cool look. Uh, but yeah, typically I do merge down and then smooth out the connections. Okay, yeah, it's Tally Lou, the Iowa Hawkeyes mascot. I don't. I know what their really graphic mascot looks like. It's just like 2D graphic shapes. Doing a search for it now. Okay. Yeah, yeah. If you were to do something like this guy, um, yeah, definitely starting with some primitives. I mean, definitely the beak shape is going to have to be not a pure primitive. It's going to be some tweaking to that shape, and then the brows you could start with like spheres that you pull back. This is an interesting design to do because it's very graphic. It's very designed for like a 2D image, um, and so interpreting that in 3D can be tricky. But that's where the skill comes in. That's where the experience goes. It's interesting to see how they interpreted that as a costume. I don't know if I love the costume version of it as a design. Yeah, this is the Hawkeyes logo I grew up seeing. That would also be a challenge to interpret in 3D. Spitfires ask, how much do I make doing this? Decent money. Um, it's interesting. I'm a freelancer, and so work sometimes it's plentiful and sometimes it's not. Um, I think there's, for definitely for some people who, they work really hard, they make lots of connections, they're um, always striving for more. I think a lot of people have done very well for themselves, um, making millions. And then there's also people who are making six figures, no problem. And there's people who barely get any work, and it it comes down to a lot of factors. I think luck is part of it, skill, talent, how hard you work, how devoted you are to it, how much you network, how many connections you go and make. That all feeds into how much work you get. Learning how to be a savvy business person, and not just. I think a lot of people go into this and they're desperate to get the first job they can get, and they deeply undervalue themselves, and they work for way less than they should. Um, I think a good part of doing this kind of work is like understanding what your value is and sticking to it and not doing work for peanuts. Um, So yeah, I think you can make decent money, but you have to make it your job. It can't just be, oh, I'm just gonna kind of willy-nilly do this thing and make a bunch of money at it. Usually doesn't work out that way. Tally Lou asked, you think making the face shape separate then joining is better? Yes, typically, especially when it comes to cartoony characters. I think if you're doing a realistic sculpt or stylized, sort of half cartoony, half realistic, it might make sense to do a more straightforward, like traditional sculpt, where you just start with a sphere and you start pulling out the shapes. But the more cartoony it gets, the more likely it is that a sort of putting together primitives is the right way to go. Spitfire says, "You surely enjoy. I can see no restlessness, just calm positivity." Yeah, yeah. Glad it's my career's worked out well for me so far. I think some things are shifting. Typically in my career, about half my work has been doing stuff for like TV commercials, animation, theme park animation, character modeling, design, stuff like that. And then another half of it has been in fine art, where I'm doing sculptures for fine artists who are pretty well known. And I've noticed a drop off in the work for animation and commercial work. And I think a lot of stuff is getting outsourced to places like India. And so I'm personally trying to focus more on the fine art world. So it's yeah, it's always a moving target. Visual Ether says, "Hey Ryan, just want to say I love your tools plugin. Had it for a while now, and there was an update that got sidelined till something was fixed. Is that fixed now?" Yes. Visual Ether is referring to there was a recent release of ZBrush that had a bug in it that broke the ability to create plugins, and and that took a little while to get fixed, but the good people at Maxon did eventually fix that. And so yes, there is a new version out that you can get. So have at it. And then Visual Little Ether says, "Oh, and that button you have to make the brush actually dynamic and match scene sizes. Some serious black magic." Oh yeah, yeah. Visual Ether is referring to um, there's a button. So sometimes you might notice like you've got a scene and you're changing the draw size. And so right now my draw size, it's like it kind of makes sense, right? It's like the full uh, range of size like is pretty much what I would want. But sometimes you might find yourself working on a file and you're like the maximum. You've cranked that all the way up to 5,000 and the brush is still like small. Or you bring the brush size really small and it's still really big. And so there's a button I have called Dyn Brush Size, and it's just this button. You just click it once, and then it just forces the size of the brush to make sense. So that's really handy. So I'm glad you like that visual ether. Tally Lou says putting together primitives will most likely make it look better, like for a beak, for instance, right? Because if it looks disconnected, it would give a proper silhouette. I'm not quite sure exactly what you're referring to, but it's just one of those things that takes experience um, doing. Um, so I would recommend to anybody, yeah, if you got a cartoony character you're working on, try slapping together primitives as an approach, and then kind of tweaking the shape of those primitives while keeping them as clean as possible. Hey Spitfires, you're from India. I don't know much about India. I've never been there. I just know a lot of VFX work is going there. Spitfires, I am in Oregon, Portland, Oregon, in the United States, Pacific Northwest. This Tally Lou, this is my own personal project. I just thought it would be fun to do a sculpt of Bernie Sanders for this live stream. All right, it's about time I save. I always hate it when I crash and I've done a bunch of work and then I have to redo it. Nobody likes that. Yeah, dynamic subdiv is the best, Tally Lou. It really makes things faster. Just having that freedom to make design decisions without locking in extra geometry, more geometry than you need is a real plus. Right, I think I want to make the pants now. I've got all my interface and like subtool list and buttons and everything on other monitors, so that's why sometimes I'm doing stuff and you can't really see it. Tally Lou, that makes a that depends on the piece, whether I extract the eyebrows or sculpt the eyebrows out. A lot of times, a lot of the pieces I work on for some of my fine art clients, we're doing very like traditional sculptural work that might go to like CNC milling out of marble. And so for that kind of work, if the eyebrows are kind of subtle, I'll sculpt them on. But sometimes, yeah, I'll extract them. It just kind of depends on what I need. If it's just kind of wispy, faint eyebrows, I'll sculpt them on. If it's kind of more bushy, I might extract them. It all just kind of depends on what the look is, what the output is, et cetera, et cetera. Tally Lou asks if I do lessons, like private lessons. Yes, I do, actually. I don't really advertise it, but if somebody comes to me and wants private lessons, I do do them actually. So, yeah, if you want anyone who wants to get in touch and get some private tutoring, feel free to contact me. All right, I'm going to merge the hips and the legs into one object, and then yeah, then I'll keep working on its shape from there. Tally Lou, what do you mean incoming $200 an hour? What do you mean by incoming? But worth it? Yeah, $200 an hour is worth it. Are you paying a tutor $200 an hour? Is that what you're saying? Oh, that's interesting, Tally Lou. You find it easy to make clothes in ZBrush? I thought yeah, it's not too hard to make clothes in ZBrush, but I also don't find it to be particularly easy. But I suppose it depends on the type of clothes you're making and how it's going to be used. Suppose it also depends on your technique. No, I haven't really used Marvelous. Do you use it? Is it good? The move tool I'm using, there's a couple different like special modes I use for with the move tools. One of them is backface masking, which makes sure that like if you're pulling on something, it only pulls like on the faces that are, how did I describe it? Only pulls on the faces that are on the side of the model that the brush is on, not the back facing faces. But then when it's on symmetry is on, it can also do like it can pull from both sides because the symmetry's on. It's kind of hard to explain, but if I turn off symmetry, you can see it's only pulling on one side or the other. So that's a mode I use all the time. This is a mug I made in a ceramic studio a couple of years ago. It's like my favorite mug, everyday use. It's got a straw built into it. I love that mug so much. Oh yeah, the one where I pulled the pants closer to the torso. I think it was just oh, you know what? I think that I might have been, yeah, that was the gizmo. So if you've got, let me try this again. So my gizmo, it's a custom gizmo. It does all the same things that the built-in gizmo does, but it just has a different UI. And so if you hold down Control on the scale function, it will inflate or deflate the model. I use that all the time. All right, I'm gonna give him a belt. Somehow I always find making belts tedious, but belts gotta be made, right? I'm gonna build it off of pants model, so I just duplicated the pants. Oh, you're welcome, Tally Lou. Luckily, I'm just doing a cartoony belt. Trying to think how I want to handle some wrinkles on the pants. I don't want to have the pants kind of bunch up and wrinkle here at the where they touch the feet, but I'm just trying to think, do I want them to be more organic or more cartoony and simplified? So for the crease down the pants, I used edge creasing. And the geometry also kind of has a pinch to it, but then sharpened that pinch with a creased edge. Okay, so what I'm going to do with the pants is I'm going to do one pant leg and do some like bunched up fabric along the cuff, and then if I I'll mirror it over to the other side, and if I like that, I'll keep it symmetrical, or I might like work in some asymmetry. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Actually, I think I did that backwards. If the back is hanging down, that's going to be straighter and it's going to be crunched up more on the top. Yeah, Tally some of my characters, I have not done very much work in video games at all. Very, very little actually. But yes, um, but nothing worth mentioning. All right, so now that I've got the clothing pretty far along, I'm gonna start doing some more stuff with the face. Trying to work some a little bit of a little bit of something into the eyes. Let's try to make it look a little bit more like him. Oh, that's great, Telly Lou. Good to hear that. If you ever want to pay me to teach you, I'll be happy to do that. Anyway, just trying to find a shape for the eyes that's works for the caricature, looks like Bernie, fits the style I'm going for. We'll see how this goes. I don't know if I'm really happy with where this is going, but 'Cause I kind of liked it really squinted up. This might be cool. We'll see. Let's see, that's. Go ahead and send me an email. We'll talk. Anybody else who's interested, go ahead and send me an email. I really like this method though of keeping like different primitives for the face, because it really makes it easy to like make decisions as you're going and of being like, oh, I'm just going to change the proportions here, change the proportions there, and like it's not locked in yet, so you just kind of do whatever you want. That's right, Professor Kittleson. Yeah, I used to teach at Full Sail many years ago, from 2006 to 2012, and that was cool. And then I've made a lot of courses on LinkedIn Learning and lynda.com, ZBrush courses. And I've also done private tutoring. So, yeah, this definitely wouldn't be my first rodeo. I think one of the things about private tutoring, particularly, that I think people need to understand is that um, I think people go into private tutoring kind of with a misconception. Maybe they think that the tutor is going to just sort of like give them sort of this magic knowledge, and then they're just going to suddenly become ZBrush experts overnight. And um, I think a lot of people don't understand it's like a lot of work. Like you got to be dedicated and working and doing stuff constantly. And like me as the tutor, I'm there to, help guide you along and give you feedback. But like the work is still the students to do, right? It's like it's a dedication to a craft. And there's no buying your way out of that. And I think some people that I've tutored have come in with the misconception that if they just pay me, I'll just sort of download expert knowledge into their brain and they won't really have to work that much. That's just kind of the vibe I've got when I've done tutoring in the past, private tutoring. So I just think, everybody's different. Not saying that any you Tally Lou or anybody else is having that mindset, but it's something that I've noticed almost more often than not in my private tutoring students. And hey, I'm not gonna turn you down, but I think it just becomes evident what the attitude of the student is going in eventually. Like what if they're actually interested in doing the work, or if they're hoping that I'll just magically download the skill into their brain because they've paid me. So yeah, I think that's a good question to ask yourself before hiring a private tutor is, you know, where do you land on that spectrum of like how much work are you willing to put in and what are you expecting and is that reasonable? It's like syrup. Sup, nerd? Just nerding out over here. Yeah, yeah, definitely if you're going into private tutor situation, you've already got some skills under your belt. Clearly that's going to help. That's going to give you a leg up. This is like one of the fun parts of design where you can just like easily tweak something and just get an instant read on like where where something should be, right? Like it's is that cross-eyed? Yeah, it's a little cross-eyed and just a little tweak is like, okay, that's good. And then that's too far out. Just kind of dial it in until it feels right. Yeah, yeah. So, like Sir up here in the chat's my good friend Scott Denton. He went to Full Sail just before I started teaching there. He graduated just before I started teaching there, and so I actually a lot of my coworkers were his student or his fellow classmates, and yeah, Scott's super talented guy. He's one of those guys that goes and gets it every day and has never wanted for work because he's always going out there and putting himself out there and working hard. And yeah, look up to you, man. But definitely, there's some people who think that just going to a school or hiring a tutor is just going to magically give them a job in the industry, and that's not how that works. Oh, Tally Lou, you went to Full Sail. Nice. What program did you go through? What years did you go? I am once again asking for your financial support. Oh wow, 2023 to 2025. You're fresh. Well, that's great. You got a job in the industry, Sally Lou. Working at a game studio. Yeah, I would say like make all the connections you can, work hard, do good work. Don't, yeah, don't get lazy, don't get complacent, and you should go far. But yeah, make it not just working hard and like practicing your skills, but making the social connections as well. That's like super important. Don't be a dick. Be kind to people, and hopefully we'll all get through to this to a better future. Dark Knight asks, a ZBrush beginner, may I ask if there's going to be retopologized later? Um, you know, I don't know if I'm making this for animation, so I might not retopologize it. I feel like this is just kind of a sculpt to be a sculpt. Definitely going to fuse the anatomical features together and then smooth out the transitions. Um, and we'll see. I'm really liking how this is turning out. It would be a really fun character to animate. Actually, I think I've already got a request from somebody to rig and animate this. So yeah, you know what? Let's retopologize it. I think this is some really fun anatomy. It'll be like fun to make topology for. And because it's all segmented into like different um, groups, it's actually I'm probably going to be able to get a pretty good like Z remesh off of it because I can Z remesh by polygroups, and so the new topology will conform to these shapes I've already got. So, there's definitely going to be some manual reworking to do, but I think a Z remesh will get me pretty far. Hallelujah. Some people you've worked with in the past were dickheads. Yep, that is definitely a thing that will happen. And sometimes dickheads do keep working. Maybe they're just extra talented, and they can just keep getting work even though they piss people off. Um, but it's better to just be kind. All right, I'm gonna start working on fusing the hand. This should be a fun little exercise. Trying to see if there's anything I need to adjust before I start fusing. Oh, Luck Lori, more anchor points, have multiple points to pose with. I'm not quite sure exactly what you're referring to. Are you saying like pivot points? Um, yeah, ZBrush is not great when it comes to establishing pivot points It'd be nice if objects had dedicated pivot points that you could set. Ah, like syrup is referring to. I sent him a map that I made. Was one day I was kind of bored and I was like, oh, it would be fun if I took the geography of the Portland, Oregon area and then it superimposed the geographical landmarks of New York City over it and the New York City area. So like downtown Portland would be Manhattan, and then southeast Portland is like Brooklyn, then which northeast Portland is like Queens, and then I just kind of went from there, just kind of brainstormed like what parts of the Portland area would correspond to different parts of the New York City area. So I like made a map and it looks really slick. And then I printed some copies and I sent one to Scott. And yeah, it's just a fun little exercise. I just got it hanging on my fridge, and yeah, I just thought it'd be a fun little thing to do. Kind of running low on time. I've only got about 10 minutes. I don't know if I want to start on this hand right now. I'll probably do it next time. Nice, Scott. Glad you liked it. Hopefully it came through the mail okay. After sending it, I was like, oh, I should have sent that in a more sturdy um, shipping package. Yeah, well, glad you liked it, Scott. All right, well, I'm gonna start fusing this hand. We'll see how far I get before I gotta go, but I gotta go in like 10 minutes, so we'll see how far we go. Oops, just had the sleeves combined in there. I should keep the sleeves separate. Oh, and the shirt cuff also should be separate. Great, so now you see each segment of this is a separate polygroup. So, well, there's one awkward thing here. Let me just fuse this so it doesn't become a problem. All right, so now when I retopologize this by polygroups, it should kind of obey those polygroups. And oh, you know what I'm going to do before I do this? I'm going to get the sides of each finger polygrouped as well so that it follows that more precisely. Cool. Now the poly groups are going to kind of follow where there's already natural creasing. Oof. The unfortunate thing with ZRemesher is sometimes it just refuses to do a nice job in some places. This isn't too bad. I can work with this. There's going to be a little bit of manual cleanup to do, but this is okay. Oh, a bunch of comments in the chat that I missed. Dark Knight says, I wanted to ask, I'm almost finished with my 4 years of college, looking forward to being an environmental artist and 3D prop artist. With AI being so widely used in the industry, would you say that it would be hard to find a job due to AI in the industry? Uh, Maybe. Yeah, I don't want to be too pessimistic, but AI might be making things really hard for people. Like Syrup says, that's impossible to say. It's all skill and also who you know and a lot of luck. Even with AI now, there are still lots of jobs. It's just had a ton of upheaval from all things. Honestly, I'd say your best bet would be to look for a job, and if games are your goal, find some way to work with teams in need or make something of your own. I'm not sure what, there's looks like a typo there, but I've heard that games right now are blowing up, and industries like the VFX are slowing down. That seems to be kind of like something I'm seeing, but um, your mileage may vary. Yeah, some nasty things here in the geometry from that Z remesher, but overall I think I can clean it up and it'll be okay. Actually, you know what? I'm going to delete this and I'm going to try one different thing with the palm. I'm going to do, oh yeah, yeah, work with indie teams on a game. Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, the sort of AAA and like big studio system might be crumbling, both for video games and film. And getting involved with small indie local projects could be a really smart move. Sponge Deep Bob. Bet an AI can't rock a beanie like Ryan. That is true. AI cannot rock a beanie like me. That is true, Scott. You got to know when to hold 'em and know when to fold 'em. Yeah, that is true. Even without AI, like 3D tools are so much easier to get stuff done with than they were when I started 20, 25 years ago. It's uh it's really amazing what you can get done. Like just look at the movie Flow. It just looks fantastic and such a small team that worked on it. All right, some things are janky on this retopology, but looks like it's not too hard to manage fixing up some things manually. So yeah, I'm gonna say I'm happy with this, and next time I'm gonna keep working on this. Gonna clean up some of this funky geometry and keep working with the rest of it. Gonna get this face merged, and yeah, I'll do it. I'll do a full retopology on this face. How about that, you guys? All right, thanks everybody for joining. It was super cool hanging out with everybody and chatting. Half the chat isn't even 25. Dang, I feel old. I might be the oldest person here. All right, you guys. It was a real pleasure, and I'll be doing the same thing. Oh, you know what? I wasn't even scheduled for today. I just started live streaming, and I don't even know if I might have like stepped on somebody else's live stream. I forgot that it's already February, and I had only scheduled for March or sorry, January. So hopefully I didn't step on anybody else's stream. So yeah, I'm gonna try to get myself into the schedule. I don't know when the next time is I'll be able to work on this, but hopefully it'll be soon. All right. Have a good one, everybody. Bye.